This morning I'm joined by Jim Croxton, the Chief Executive of BIGGA. And I think, Jim, we last spoke at the beginning of July, and at that time we touched on BTME, and you were as open and candid as you could be at that point. But with so much uncertainty with the virus, and particularly with the situation at Harrogate and the International Centre, you couldn't really confirm anything at that time. But I do understand that you've got some news for us now.
Yeah, morning, Scott, and thanks for your time. Yes, it doesn't seem long since you and I spoke last. It's probably about a month or so, and I don't think we're necessarily any more certain now than we were a month ago of how the world will be, tomorrow, next week, or next year. But we set ourselves an internal deadline at BIGGA of the end of July as a time when, for the whole industry to prepare adequately for BTME, we think that kind of 6 months run up is the right time. And I feel like a broken record because ever since this virus started back in sort of February, March, we've said all along that the safety of our members and the safety of our staff, and for that matter, the safety of our clients is paramount. And we don't believe right now that it is that we can in any way guarantee the safety of people that would attend an indoor event in January. And particularly an event like BTME, where the interaction between people is such a key part of it. BTME, and you've been coming for more years than either of us care to mention, the event itself is an important event in the industry of turf, and it's a work event, but it's also a social event. And so we've made the decision that we are cancelling BTME for 2021. It won't take place. We've cancelled with Harrogate in January. As an aside, in fact, funny enough, last night, the Harrogate Convention Centre announced that it's extended its contract with the Nightingale Hospital for 2 weeks, which takes it to next week, only because they're in the middle of a negotiation. We don't know whether their venue will be available or not, but of course we could have looked at alternative venues, but we don't think we can put an event on that guarantees the safety of all those people. And that is the paramount concern. It has to be. Following on from that, if we try to put an event on, and I know that there are events out there that are going to take place between now and then, or at least slated to do so, but they have a different agenda. I mean, some of these events that are going to take place are, the sort of the critical buying event for a seasonal business. I mean, I don't know about the event that takes place the week before ours in Harrogate, the Christmas show, but that event is enormously important to that industry to place its orders. And so we wish anybody well that's going to have an event, but in our opinion, based on the information we have, we're cancelling January. In terms of the physical event, the in-person event, we are going to run our conference, Continue to Learn. We'll do it differently. It'll be virtual. It'll probably be very different in terms of timescale because, as you know from having done this screen stuff for the last few months, the idea of a 8-hour day in front of a screen I don't think is going to fill people with joy. So we'll probably take something like 2 weeks and spread our conference over 2 weeks. But we want to do as big and as bold a conference as we've ever done. And there are some advantages to being virtual. There's no limit to where speakers can come from. I think we'll see a really international range of speakers. And we're really going to focus very hard in the next 6 months on putting on as good a conference as we possibly can. And then we are at a reasonably advanced stage in planning now with an alternative event. The working title, and please, if you use this, don't hold me to it, but we're calling it the Festival of Turf. But we're going to put an event on in the summer. And so we're going to put an outdoor event on in the summer. We've spoken to a number of our members and a number of the trade. And there is a willingness and a wish to get together for all the reasons that we do at BTME in January, but to do so in the safest environment possible. As things stand, I think we can be reasonably confident that by the summer next year we'll be virus-free, I hope, or we'll have a vaccine. And of course, at the very least, outdoor events are considerably more safe than anything indoors. So in the next few weeks, I hope we'll be announcing venue for an outdoor event where we get our trade and our members and our normal BTME visitors together. So yeah, quite a lot to take in.
A lot to take in. This new event, would that be a single day event, a 2-day event? And are you looking, the first thought that I had, Jim, was, the Yorkshire Showground as a potential venue. Or are you not restricted geographically to somewhere that you've already been?
No, we're not restricted geographically. We've actually got 3 venues currently under consideration, and we're looking at a 2-day event. We think that that will be enough, and one day wouldn't. We'd quite like to have, a really good social element to it, which you need a day flowing into an evening, flowing into another day for that to take place. I want the event to be, I was going to say austere, that's not the right word. I don't think we're looking for our exhibitors to suddenly pay the sort of money they were paying for BTME and creating grand constructions. It might be a little kind of artisan. We'll do it. The point will be to get people together, get them looking at products, and get them doing, and making up for lost time. But yeah, the plan will be 2 days, geographically as sort of sound as we can make it, so that we can get a really good number of people there.
That actually answers one of the other questions I had, because I thought if you were moving something to the middle of the year, you're then putting 2 BTMEs on within the same financial year, which would have been tricky for exhibitors. But if one's a stripped back version before you get back in, you can then go back to your January slot in 2022.
That's certainly the plan. Yeah, that's certainly the plan. So, the message is that BTME is off, and we'll do something different in 21, as opposed to this is a delayed BTME. Naturally, there will be comparisons. We can't get away from the fact that, it'll be BIGGA running some kind of outdoor event, exhibition, client event, but it isn't BTME. I've been really pleased with our feedback from the trade, who and it's a varied feedback. Some people are struggling. I know that everyone's budgets are going to be challenged. So we're absolutely not of the view we're suddenly going to be trying to charge huge sums for vast stand. We want to do this in a way that works for those guys. But what has been nice and has come through really well the last few months. When I spoke to you recently, I'm really proud of the work this association's done over the last few months to support its members and support the golf industry. And the only reason we can do that is because we're financially viable. And I've spoken to a number of exhibitors who said, we want to, if BTME doesn't take place, we want to find a way to support you, because the work you do is important for our customer base. So we think we found a kind of a happy medium, which will enable us to put on an event which will do good things for the industry and enable us to keep going.
Mm-hmm. Now, outdoor exhibiting space has always been something that Harrogate BTME hasn't been able to offer. So perhaps that's a big plus, the fact you'll have some of the exhibitors delighted that they can get their big machinery out and crank up the engines a little bit more than they were ever able to do in the International Centre.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. I mean, the industry has a track record of we will have people saying that whichever week we choose, that's a busy week for them in the summer. We recognise that. However, we're asking them to spend a day, not 5 days with us. And generally speaking, the industry doesn't shut down in the summer. And, a number of our clients have held their own kind of demo days or whatever it might be at that time of year. And that being outdoors, and I've attended a few, and you will have attended hundreds over the years, there's something slightly different about them. And you know what it's like when our members get to see the machinery in action and to actually get right up close and personal in the outdoor environment. It is quite nice. And it is the one drawback of Harrogate in January. When we head off to the American show and you're playing golf in t-shirts the same day as the exhibition, it's a little bit of a different experience.
Now, I do know that Harrogate is a huge important element of BIGGA as an association and what it funds. And they used to think it was true that there was 1 month where BIGGA made a profit and the other 11 when it didn't. Is this going to make a huge impact in what you can do as an association?
I think the simple answer is no. It's going to have a huge impact. It's not going to have a huge impact in what we can do. It's naturally going to have an impact on how hard it is to do it. We've had to look at our budget over a longer period. We've budgeted our financial year, interesting enough, is July the 1st to the end of June. So, Harrogate falls slap bang in the middle of that. In budgeting for the next year, we budgeted we've actually budgeted for no Harrogate at all, for no BTME. We've taken that decision. If we then run an event which happens to generate some funds, then that's great. But we're able to run the business over the next sort of 2 to 3 years, losing a BTME, and it won't impact on what we do. It'll have some impact on our business. Every business in the country is feeling the pinch, but we feel confident we can continue to offer the range of services we do.
it's a little bit strange almost. You've done inadvertently done a swap with Saltex. Saltex has gone from an outdoor show to an indoor show in winter, and you'll have gone for 1 year only from an indoor show in winter to an outdoor show at the beginning of the summer.
Yeah, that there is a sort of an unusual symmetry to that, isn't there? Which is interesting, and I think I've said publicly, I really commend what the GMA have done with their show. They've done an outstanding job of bringing it indoors to the NEC, and they're in that same difficult situation. They've already had to postpone their event, and yeah, it'll be interesting that we'll be the outdoor ones next year while they're rattling around exhibition halls.
Well, as I say, it'll be a change, getting rid of the hats and gloves and digging out the factor 30 when we turn up at the bigger show next year. When do you think there'll be more information to let us know about, Jim?
I would like
venue and timings and that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, we're into start. Yeah, no, I'd very much like to think that by the beginning of September we've got some pretty hard, fast stuff, because I mean, even though June and I think June is the most likely month for us. I mean, you've got the Euro Championship starting middle of June next year. You then got Olympics. You've got all sorts of stuff that kind of get in the way of summer things. So I'm thinking, you know, June is probably the most likely time. Even though that's a long way away now, these events take a lot of planning, and we obviously need to give our exhibitors and clients the best notice. So I would think inside 4 weeks we'll have a plan for public consumption, and we do intend to spend a lot of time this next 2 to 3 weeks consulting with all of our exhibitors. We've spoken to quite a few already to get their sort of broad opinions, and they've been very supportive. But we're now going to be asking them to put their money where their mouth is. So, you know, that's the job of the next few weeks.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you very much for your time again, Jim, this morning. It's hopefully we'll get back to some sort of what is regarded as normality, maybe by 2021. We hope so. And until then, good luck for everybody at Old Rock Manor, and good luck to yourself.
Thanks, Scott. Really appreciate that. Thank you.